I just wanted to talk a little bit about this, which I just picked up at the thrift store the other day for 20 bucks. And I've always said if I saw a good value for one of these, I would buy it. And for $20, couldn't pass up. And I've got to say, it works perfectly, a few little scratches. But you know what it is? This is the infamous iPod Air, which is essentially a glorified iPod dock with 3 speakers in it. You'll notice I've covered up the infrared port because I need to get another remote. That's the only thing I don't have for this. And for reasons that are complex and has to do with Apple-y stuff, this likes to pay attention to another Apple remote, and until I compare it with a different one, it's easier to cover up the infrared sensor. But as you can see, speakers are perfect. It's essentially perfect. Sounds as good as new. So this came out in 2006, or was announced in 2006. It sold for something like $350, which was seen as astronomical at the time. It is essentially a glorified iPod dock. It's fairly interesting. It's old enough that it only has FireWire power, so not all iPods will charge on it. And it means that adapter cables for things like the iPhone that I'm shooting this on right now won't work. But it also has an audio in, which also supports Toslink, so you could put in a digital in if you wanted in that route. So, very interesting device, totally overpriced when it came out. If it had been $100 less, it might have sold well. It's usually considered a pretty failed Johnny Ive / Steve Jobs kind of project. But it certainly did make the argument for high-cost iPod docks. Now, of course, the competing one, well, I have the second edition here, is the Zeppelin. This is a Zeppelin Air, which came out later on. It has a more modern Lightning connection and also supports AirPlay version 1, which is still perfectly fine. I've used this for years. I bought it new. And at the same time that this was released, B&W released the original Air. And while this was an abject failure as a product, this created the expensive originally iPod dock, then network speaker, and then eventually Bluetooth speaker category. Although this does not have Bluetooth because B&W thought Bluetooth sucked and they weren't going to put it in their speaker. So yeah, I've used this for years. This sounds really quite good. It's worn, but it's B&W, so what do you expect? And yeah, it makes a pretty good thing to plug into your TV. It also has Toslink, AirPlay, analog in, and it has its own remote. This is a bit interesting in terms of what it sounds like. It's very bass heavy, but it doesn't go down nearly as low as the B&W, which has separate tweeters, mid-range, and a essentially almost subwoofer tuned bass driver in it. But it's pretty good. The high frequencies sound pretty nice, and it's just they've upped the mid bass because there isn't quite as much low bass as you might expect. Very typical of consumer stuff from that era and now. But an interesting device, and it has a few other tricks to it too. I'm just going to turn it around. It weighs 15 pounds, so I will take the camera off and then do that. Around the back you can see the power input, the audio in, which also is a dual Toslink port. Very common among Apple stuff in this era. My Mac of this era also has those sorts of ports on it, but it's also got this. Okay, what's behind that? Like every other Apple battery compartment, a battery compartment that holds, I believe, 6D batteries. So yes, you could take your 15-pound iPod dock on the road if you put another couple of pounds of batteries in the back of it, and goodness knows how long these would last with that thing. So all in all, a pretty interesting device. Sounds pretty good. Certainly makes a decent bedroom or office speaker or something like that. Well worth picking up if you find one for a good price. These are going for about 150 bucks on eBay, which I find a little high, but I guess they're into the Apple collectible world now. Anyway, hope that was interesting. Thanks for watching.